The moment the human ship began its final approach, panic spread through the Krellian Armada like fire through dry grass. Commander Vextar stood on his bridge watching his tactical display as dozens of reports flooded in from ships across the fleet. Each one brought more disturbing news about the single vessel that had somehow turned his perfect formation into chaos. Sir called the communications officer, his voice high with stress. "We have 17 ships reporting system malfunctions. 23 more have lost contact with their escort squadrons. The human ship is doing something to our electronics." Vextar gripped the edge of his command console until his claws left scratches in the metal. "How is one ship disrupting our entire fleet? Our systems are hardened against electronic warfare." The sensor officer looked up from his station, his 4 eyes wide with fear. "Sir, the human vessel is not using conventional jamming. It appears to be broadcasting some kind of adaptive signal that learns our frequencies and counters them in real time." This was impossible. The Krellian military had the most advanced electronic warfare systems in the galaxy. Their ships could jam enemy communications, disrupt targeting systems, and even overload weapon controls. But somehow this single human ship was turning their own technology against them. What the Krellians did not understand was that humans had spent decades studying captured alien technology. Every piece of equipment, every communication, protocol, every defensive system had been analyzed and cataloged. Human engineers had not just learned how alien technology worked, they had learned how to defeat it. Aboard the Indomitable, the crew worked with calm efficiency. Captain Deho watched as his tactical officer Yang Taemin coordinated their electronic assault on the enemy fleet. The human ship was not just approaching, it was systematically dismantling the aliens' ability to fight as a coordinated force. Sir Taemin reported, "Their command and control network is fragmenting. We are injecting false orders into their communication system. Enemy ships are receiving conflicting instructions from multiple sources." Communications officer Han Ji-young monitored the chaos spreading. "Through the alien fleet, sir," she said with satisfaction. "They are arguing among themselves. Some ships are demanding new orders, others are requesting permission to retreat. Several squadron commanders are no longer responding to their flagship." This was human warfare at its most sophisticated. Instead of trying to destroy every enemy ship, the Indomitable was attacking the invisible threads that held the fleet together. Communication links, command structures, coordination protocols, all of it was being systematically unraveled. The alien armada had been a single organism with 3,000 parts working in perfect harmony. Now it was becoming 3,000 individual ships, each one confused, frightened, and increasingly isolated. The Krellians had never faced an enemy that could turn their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. Commander Vextar watched his formation dissolve with growing horror. Ship after ship was falling out of position, losing contact with their assigned sectors. Some vessels were even firing warning shots at their own allies, mistaking them for enemies in the electronic chaos. "Get me direct communication with all squadron leaders," he ordered. "Bypass the main network, use emergency frequencies only." But even as his communications officer tried to comply, the human ship struck again. New jamming signals appeared on frequencies that the Krellians had thought were secret backup systems failed as fast as they could activate them. It was as if the enemy knew their technology better than they did themselves. The truth was even worse than Vextar could imagine. The humans did know their technology better than they did. Human intelligence had been studying Krellian communications for years. They had captured ships, analyzed equipment, and even recruited defectors. Every system the aliens used had been mapped, cataloged, and prepared for defeat. Navigation Officer Cho Min-seo called out from her station on the Indomitable. "Captain, we have successfully isolated their flagship from the rest of the fleet. Commander Vextar's ship is now operating independently with no direct control over other vessels." "Perfect," Deho replied. "Now we move to Phase 2. Begin the demonstration." The human ship suddenly accelerated, moving faster than any vessel its size should have been able to manage. The Indomitable dove through the alien formation, not toward the largest ships or the most dangerous targets. Instead, it headed straight for the fleet's support vessels, the Endor supply ships, communication relays, and command stations that kept the Armada functioning. This was another lesson the aliens were about to learn. Humans did not fight like other species. Most military forces focused on destroying the biggest threats first. But human tacticians understood that modern warfare was about systems, not individual units. Destroy the support structure, and even the mightiest fleet would collapse. The first alien ship to die was not a battleship or heavy cruiser. It was a communications relay vessel that had been hiding behind the main formation. The Indomitable struck it with weapons that the Krellians had never seen before. Beams of pure energy that could adapt their frequency to penetrate any known shield technology. The relay ship did not just explode. It disintegrated, completely dissolved into component atoms in seconds. There was no wreckage, no debris, just empty space where a vessel had been moments before. The destruction was so complete that nearby ships could not even confirm what had happened. Sir screamed the sensor officer on Vextar's bridge. The human ship just destroyed the primary communication relay. The entire eastern formation has gone dark. We have no contact with over 800 ships, but the Indomitable was not finished. Before the aliens could react, the human ship struck again and again. Moving with impossible speed and agility, it carved through their support network like a blade through silk. Supply convoys vanished. Command posts were reduced to atoms. Electronic warfare stations simply stopped existing. Each attack lasted only seconds, but the cumulative effect was devastating. The mighty Krellian Armada was being systematically blinded, deafened, and paralyzed. One by one, the threads that bound it together were being cut. The aliens watched helplessly as their perfect formation became a confused mob of isolated ships. Tactical Officer Young Taman monitored the destruction from his station on the Indomitable. Sir, he reported, enemy fleet cohesion has dropped to 30% and falling. They are no longer operating as a unified force. Most ships are now acting independently. This was exactly what Captain Deho had planned. The aliens still outnumbered his ship 3,000 to 1, but numbers meant nothing if those ships could not work together. 1,000 individual fighters were far less dangerous than a coordinated army of 100. Engineering Chief Park Jinwoo called from the engine room, Captain, the programmable matter hull is performing perfectly. We have adapted our armor to counter 17 different weapon types so far. The enemy cannot find a frequency that penetrates our defenses. The battle was proceeding exactly as the humans had predicted. Every alien tactic had been anticipated. Every weapon system had been countered. The Krellians were fighting an enemy that seemed to know their every move before they made it. But the most terrifying realization was yet to come. As Commander Vextar watched his fleet dissolve into chaos, he began to understand that this was not a desperate last stand by a doomed species. This was a carefully planned demonstration. The humans were not fighting for survival. They were sending a message. The message was simple and terrifying. Earth would not be conquered. The species that lived there were not like other races they had encountered. Humans were something new, something dangerous, something that could turn the galaxy's greatest military force into a collection of confused and frightened individuals. Security Chief Kang Minho reported to the bridge captain, "Our boarding pods are ready for launch. We can begin infiltration of enemy command ships at your order." "Not yet," Deho replied. "Let them understand what they are facing first. Then we show them what happens when humans board their ships." The Indomitable continued its deadly dance through the alien fleet, leaving destruction and chaos in its wake. But this was only the beginning. The aliens were about to discover that human warfare had many levels, and they had only seen the first one. The Indomitable struck like lightning, cutting through the alien formation with surgical precision. Captain Daiho watched as his ship dismantled the enemy fleet not through brute force but through perfect understanding of how modern warfare actually worked. The aliens still thought in terms of ship-to-ship combat, but humans had evolved beyond such primitive thinking. Sir called Tactical Officer Young Temin. Enemy fleet coordination has collapsed to 15%. They are no longer sharing, targeting data or defensive information. Most ships are operating in complete isolation. Good, Deho replied. Now we show them the next level. Begin boarding operations. Security Chief Kang Minho had been waiting for this moment. His Marine teams were already sealed in their boarding pods ready to bring the fight directly to the enemy ships. The pods themselves were marvels of human engineering. Adaptive stealth technology made them nearly invisible, while their hulls could reshape to penetrate. Any known armor launch all pods Minho-commanded targets are the remaining command vessels and communication hubs. Remember your training. These aliens have never faced human boarding tactics. The boarding pods shot out from the Indomitable like bullets, each one guided by artificial intelligence that could adapt its approach in real time. The aliens detected the incoming projectiles, but their defensive systems were designed for large missiles, not tiny craft that could change shape and direction. At Willen, Commander Vextar's flagship alarms began screaming as something struck the hull. The impact was barely felt, but sensors showed that whatever had hit them was now cutting through their outer armor with impossible speed. "Sir," reported the security officer, "small craft have attached to our hull in 17 different locations. They appear to be some kind of boarding vessels. Impossible." Vextar snarled. "Our armor is 3 meters thick. Nothing that small could penetrate it." But even as he spoke, his sensors showed the truth. Human cutting tools were slicing through Krellian armor like it was paper. The aliens had designed their defenses to stop known weapons, energy beams, projectiles, and plasma cutters. But humans had developed something entirely new. The first boarding pod broke through into the flagship and Lieutenant Nam Sora emerged with her team. The humans were encased in adaptive armor that shifted and flowed around them like liquid metal. Their weapons were compact, but devastatingly effective against alien technology. "Move fast." Sora whispered to her squad. "Hit the gravity generators first. Make them fight in zero gravity while we stay mobile." The human Marines moved through the alien corridors like ghosts. Their armor could become nearly invisible, blending with the walls and floors the Krellians had trained for ship-to-ship combat. But they had never imagined an enemy that would bring the battle inside their own vessels. As the humans disabled the gravity systems throughout the Krellian ships, chaos erupted. The aliens began floating helplessly in the air, unable to move effectively, while the human boarding teams remained mobile using magnetic boots and maneuvering thrusters. This was another fundamental difference between human and alien warfare. Most species fought in their natural environment using tactics that felt comfortable and familiar, but humans specialized in making their enemies fight in conditions where they could not function properly. Engineering. Chief Park Jinwoo monitored the battle from his station deep in the Indomitable Captain. He reported, "The programmable matter hull modifications are working perfectly. We now have 47 different weapon systems active, all adapted from captured alien technology." The human ship continued to transform as the battle progressed. New weapons emerged from the hull surfaces that had been smooth moments before. Defensive systems materialized to counter incoming fire. Energy shields adapted their frequencies in real time to deflect enemy attacks. The Indomitable was no longer just a warship. It was a living demonstration of human adaptability. Every alien weapon that struck it was analyzed, cataloged, and countered within seconds. The ship learned from each attack, becoming more resistant with every passing minute. Meanwhile, the boarding teams were wreaking havoc throughout the enemy fleet. Lieutenant Sora and her Marines had reached the bridge of the flagship where they found Commander Vextar and his officers floating helplessly in zero gravity. The Krellian commander tried to draw his sidearm, but the weapon spun uselessly in the air. Human Marines moved with practiced ease in the weightless environment, their magnetic boots allowing them to walk on any metal surface while their enemies could only drift and flail. "Surrender," ordered Sora, her weapon trained on the alien commander. "Your fleet is finished. Your communications are down. Your coordination is broken. This battle is over." Vextar stared at the human warrior in shock. She was smaller than any of his soldiers, lightly armed and apparently alone. But she moved with absolute confidence, as if the outcome of this battle had never been in doubt. "How is this possible?" he gasped. "One ship cannot defeat an entire armada, Lieutenant." Sora smiled behind her helmet visor. "One human ship, Captain. Not one ship. One human ship. There is a difference." Across the fleet, similar scenes were playing out. Human boarding teams had infiltrated dozens of alien vessels. Each team struck with perfect coordination, targeting the systems that kept the enemy ships functional. Command centers were captured, Communication arrays were destroyed, and weapon systems were systematically disabled. Medical officer, Dr. Yoon Hye-jin, monitored the battle from her station, analyzing the psychological profiles of enemy commanders. Sir, she reported to Captain Daeho. Enemy morale has collapsed completely. They are beginning to broadcast surrender requests on all frequencies. The aliens had never encountered an enemy like this. Most species fought for territory or resources using straightforward tactics and conventional strategies. But humans fought for ideas. Freedom, justice, the right to exist without fear. These concepts made them far more dangerous than any conventional military force. Communications officer Han Ji-young looked up from her console. Captain, we are receiving transmission from multiple enemy vessels. They want to negotiate a ceasefire. Daeho considered this for a moment. The alien fleet was effectively neutralized. Their command structure was broken. Their communications were down, and their ships were filled with human boarding teams. But this battle was about more than just military. Victory, open a channel, he ordered. I will speak to them directly. The main screen activated, showing Commander Vextar floating helplessly on his own bridge. Human Marines visible in the background. The Krellian commander looked defeated and confused, as if he could not understand how his mighty fleet had been so completely outmatched. I am Captain Kim Daeho of the United Earthship Indomitable. Daeho said, his voice calm and professional. You came to our system expecting to find weak prey. Instead, you found something else entirely. Vextar struggled to speak. How did you do this? One ship against thousands. How is it possible? Daeho smiled. You made the same mistake that every species makes. You assume that because we are smaller and fewer, we must be weaker. But you do not understand what humans are. We do not fight like other species. We do not accept defeat. We do not surrender when outnumbered. We become more dangerous. The alien commander listened in growing horror as the human captain explained. The truth, humans had been studying alien warfare for decades. They had learned from every defeat, every loss, every mistake. They had turned military science into an art form. Your tactics are predictable. Daeho continued. Your technology is limited. By your imagination, your strategies are based on what has worked before. But humans specialize in doing what has never been done before. As if to demonstrate this point, the Indomitable began another transformation. The ship split into multiple sections, each one becoming an independent fighting unit. The aliens watched in terror as one vessel became 5, each one as powerful as the original. Now, Daeho said, you will return to your worlds and you will carry a message. Humanity is no longer hiding. We are no longer weak. We are no longer afraid. Earth is under our protection, and anyone who threatens it will face the consequences. The demonstration was complete. The alien fleet was broken and scattered. Their confidence shattered and their understanding of warfare fundamentally changed. They would return home with stories that would reshape galactic politics. Captain Kim Daeho stood perfectly still on the bridge of the UES Indomitable. His hands were clasped behind his back as he watched the massive alien fleet spread across the star system ahead. 3,000 enemy ships filled the darkness like a constellation of death, but his expression remained calm. The bridge around him hummed with quiet efficiency as his crew prepared for battle. Commander Lee Soo-jin approached from her station. Her footsteps were silent on the soft deck plating that absorbed sound and vibration. She stopped beside her captain and consulted the tablet in her hands, so she reported in a steady voice. We have confirmed enemy numbers at 3,012 vessels ranging from destroyer class to dreadnought size. Our tactical computers estimate their total firepower at approximately 50 times our own. Daeho nodded slowly. Good, he said. That means they are confident. They will not expect what we are about to show them. The bridge of the Indomitable was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Smooth curved walls seemed to glow with their own inner light. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing detailed information about every system on the ship. The crew moved with practiced precision, each person knowing exactly what they needed to do. This was not just a warship. It was the culmination of 50 years of human military development. After first contact with hostile alien species, humanity had realized they were outgunned, outmanned, and outclassed. in every conventional measure. So they had stopped trying to fight conventionally. Sujin glanced at the enemy fleet again. Sir, should we request backup from the Luna Defense Force? We could have reinforcements here in 6 hours. Deho smiled and shook his head. No. This is exactly what we trained for. Let the galaxy see what one human ship can accomplish. The Indomitable was not built like other ships. Instead of thick armor plating its hull, was made from programmable matter, a revolutionary material that could reshape itself, adapt its properties and repair damage in real time. The ship could literally become whatever it needed to be in any situation. Engineering, this is the captain. Deho spoke into his communicator. Park Jinwoo. I need everything the ship can give us today, deep in the engine compartment. Chief Engineer Park Jinwoo grinned as he made final adjustments to systems that had never been tested in real combat. The Indomitable's power source was not a fusion reactor or antimatter containment unit. Instead, it used controlled micro-black holes to generate energy levels that would have been impossible just decades ago. Captain Park replied over the comm, "You are going to love what we have prepared. These aliens have never seen anything like our new modifications. The ship is ready to show them what human engineering can accomplish." At the navigation station, Lieutenant Cho Min-seo monitored their approach vector. Her console showed not just their current position, but probability, maps of enemy movement patterns and defensive capabilities. The human tactical computer had been analyzing alien warfare for years, learning from every encounter captain. She called out, "The enemy fleet is moving into standard encirclement formation. They are trying to surround us with overlapping fields of fire." Perfect Daiho said, "Let them think they understand what they are dealing with. Continue our approach." The Indomitable moved through space with impossible grace for a ship of its size. Traditional vessels were built like flying fortresses, heavy and powerful but clumsy. This human ship moved like a predator, sleek and fast and utterly deadly. Every system had been designed around one simple principle: give humans every possible advantage in combat. At the tactical station, Yang Taemin studied the enemy formation with cold precision. His console showed detailed analysis of every alien ship, their weapons capabilities, shield frequencies, and structural weak points. The human databases contained information gathered from decades of careful observation, Sir Taemin reported. Their positioning is exactly as our combat simulations predicted. Same defensive patterns, same command structure, same vulnerabilities. We know how to beat them. Communications. Officer Han Ji-young looked up from her station. "Captain, we are receiving their surrender demands. They want us to withdraw from the system and submit to inspection." Deho chuckled. "Tell them we have a counteroffer. They can surrender to us, and we will let them leave with their lives." The bridge crew exchanged glances. Some of them smiled. Others shook their heads at their captain's boldness. But all of them knew they were part of something historic. Today, humanity would announce its presence as a galactic power, not through diplomacy but through strength. The Indomitable suddenly changed course, moving with startling agility. The ship dove toward what appeared to be empty space, confusing the alien observers who expected direct confrontation. Instead of charging into the enemy formation, the human ship seemed to be positioning itself carefully. What the aliens did not understand was that humans had studied their tactics for years. Every species in the galaxy fought the same way. Overwhelming, forced direct assault, predictable formations. They relied on superior numbers and firepower to crush their enemies. But humans had learned to fight differently. Security Chief Kang Minho monitored his boarding teams as they prepared for deployment. His Marines were equipped with adaptive armor that could become invisible or impenetrable, depending on the situation. Their weapons were designed specifically to counter known alien technologies. Captain Kang reported, "All assault teams ready for deployment. We have 40 Marines prepared to board enemy command vessels and disable their coordination systems." Medical Officer Dr. Yoon Hyejin worked calmly in the ship's medical bay. Her screens showed psychological profiles of the enemy commanders, based on their communication patterns and tactical decisions. She could predict their behavior with frightening accuracy. So she called to the bridge. "Enemy stress indicators are rising. Their formation is becoming less coordinated. They are beginning to doubt themselves. This was the human advantage that no other species understood. Humans got stronger under pressure while their enemies got weaker. Every challenge made them more creative, more determined, more dangerous. Other species fought to avoid losses. Humans fought to win regardless of cost. The Indomitable reached its chosen position, and something extraordinary happened. The ship's hull began to change. Sections of programmable matter flowed like liquid, reshaping themselves into new configurations. Weapon ports opened where none had existed before. Defensive systems materialized from nothing. Park Jinwoo from engineering called out over the intercom. Programmable matter systems online. Captain, we are now configured for maximum combat effectiveness. The ship is whatever we need it to be. The alien fleet watched in growing terror as the human vessel transformed before their eyes. What they thought was a simple warship became something that defied their understanding of technology and physics. The Indomitable was no longer just a ship. It was a shape-shifting nightmare that could adapt to any threat. Daeho stood calmly on his bridge, surrounded by his crew, as they prepared to face impossible odds. 800 humans against 2 million aliens. One ship against 3,000. But they were not afraid. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. The captain opened a communication channel to the entire crew. "This is Captain Kim Daeho," he announced. "Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. Every person on this ship knows their duty. Every system has been prepared for this moment. We are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for every human who will ever look up at the stars." Crew responded with quiet determination. Each person focused on their task, knowing that failure was not an option. They were humanity's finest warriors, equipped with technology that represented the best of human ingenuity and creativity. The Indomitable completed its transformation and began to move toward the enemy fleet. But this was not a charge or desperate attack. This was a carefully planned demonstration of human superiority. The aliens were about to learn that they had made a terrible mistake. They had come expecting to find weak prey. Instead, they would discover something far more dangerous. A species that refused to accept defeat, that turned every disadvantage into an opportunity that became more deadly when cornered. The battle was about to begin. The black void of space stretched endlessly in all directions, but today it was not empty. The massive alien armada moved through the darkness like a swarm of angry insects. Each ship was the size of a small city, and there were thousands of them. The metal hulls gleamed under the light of distant stars, and inside each vessel, hundreds of Krellian warriors prepared for battle. Commander Vextar's 4 eyes scanned the tactical display on his bridge. The screen showed his entire fleet spread across the star system in perfect formation. He had been planning this attack for 3 years, ever since the Krellian High Command had decided that Earth must be conquered. The humans had something his people wanted, and they would take it by force. The Krellian Empire had conquered 47 worlds using the same strategy. Overwhelming numbers, precise formations, and complete destruction of enemy forces. It had never failed. Not once. The humans would surrender, just like all the others, or they would be destroyed completely. There was no third option. Vextar stood 8 feet tall with gray, scaly skin and sharp claws that clicked against the metal floor. His species had evolved from predators, and they still thought like hunters. The bridge around him bustled with activity as junior officers monitored their stations. Each Krellian wore the black armor of their military and carried weapons that could cut through steel. Today should have been simple. The human homeworld lay ahead of them, defenseless and unprepared. Their scouts had reported that Earth had only a small fleet of primitive ships. The humans still used chemical rockets and metal hulls, while the Krellians had energy shields and plasma cannons. Victory was certain then. The sensor alarm began to sound. The high-pitched wail filled the bridge, and every officer turned toward the sensor station. A young Krellian with nervous eyes looked up from his console. His hands shook as he read the display twice to make sure. "He was not mistaken, sir," the officer said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Our long-range sensors have detected something Unusual. Vextar moved closer to the sensor station. His heavy footsteps echoed through the suddenly quiet bridge. What kind of something, he demanded. A single ship, sir. The officer gulped. It is approaching from the outer edge of this solar system, moving directly toward our position. Vextar laughed, a harsh sound that made several officers flinch. One ship. Just one. The humans must truly be as foolish as our intelligence report suggested. Perhaps they are sending an envoy to negotiate their surrender. But as the sensor data continued to stream in, Vextar's laughter died. The readings made no sense. The approaching vessel was unlike anything in their vast databases. Its energy signature was completely wrong, too clean, too focused, too powerful. The ship seemed to bend space around itself as it moved. The hull composition is unknown, sir. The sensor officer reported, his tentacles trembling. Our computers cannot identify the materials. They appear to be some kind of adaptive metal that changes its properties. Impossible. Vextar snarled. No species has technology that advanced. Our scientists would know about it, sir. The Yar ship is accelerating, the officer continued. The G-forces should be crushing any crew inside, but our scans show life signs. They are alive and apparently unaffected by forces that would kill any known species. A cold feeling began to spread through Vextar's chest. The confidence he had felt moments before started to crack. Other officers were gathering around the sensor station now, all staring at the impossible readings. The single human ship was moving at speeds that defied physics and showed no signs of slowing down. What is their heading? Vextar asked, though he already feared the answer. Direct course for our position, sir. They are not trying to avoid us or flee. They are coming straight at us. The bridge fell silent, except for the quiet hum of machinery. Every Krellian present understood what this meant. The humans were not running. They were not hiding. They were attacking a single ship against 3,000. This was either the act of complete madness or something far worse. Sir, another officer called out from the communication station. We are receiving reports from other ships in the fleet. All sensor arrays have detected the human vessel. The entire Armada knows it is coming. Vextar could hear the fear in the officer's voice, and he knew why every Krellian had heard the stories. The whispered tales that survivors brought back from distant battles. Strange reports of humans who fought differently, who did not follow the normal rules of war, who became more dangerous, when outnumbered instead of less. These stories had been dismissed as the wild tales of frightened soldiers who had been defeated by inferior forces. But now, facing a single human ship that defied all logic, Vextar began to wonder if those stories might be true. The human ship continued its approach, and with each passing minute the sensor readings became more disturbing. The vessel was not just fast, it was impossibly agile. It moved through space like a living thing, dodging asteroids and debris with fluid grace. No ship that large should be able to maneuver like that. Sir, the communications officer spoke again, his voice cracking. We are receiving surrender demands from the human ship. Vextar blinked in confusion. They are demanding our surrender? Yes, sir, they are broadcasting on all frequencies in our language. They say we have 30 minutes to begin withdrawal from this system, or face the consequences. The absurdity of it hit Vextar like a physical blow. One ship was demanding the surrender of an entire armada. It was the most ridiculous thing he had ever heard. Yet something deep in his predator instincts whispered that he should be afraid. Get me a full analysis of that ship, he ordered. I want to know everything. Power output, crew complement, weapon systems, everything. The sensor officer worked frantically at his console, but each new reading only added to the mystery. The human ship seemed to be made of impossible materials, powered by unknown energy sources and crewed by beings who could survive forces that would liquefy any other species. Sir, the officer said, his voice barely audible. I am detecting something else. The ship appears to be scanning our entire fleet. It knows our positions, our weapons, our defensive capabilities. It is mapping us. How is that possible? Vextar demanded. Our ships have the best stealth technology in the galaxy. The human sensors appear to be far more advanced than anything we have encountered. They can see through our cloaking fields, detect our weapon charges, and even monitor our internal communications. Vextor felt his world beginning to tilt. The Krellian Empire had built its power on technological superiority. They had better ships, better weapons, better defenses than any species they had ever encountered. But this single human vessel seemed to make all of that meaningless. The ship continued its approach, now close enough that they could see it with their own eyes through the bridge viewports. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, sleek and predatory, with lines that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Strange lights pulsed along its hull in patterns that hurt to look at directly. 20 minutes until their deadline, sir, the communications officer reported. Vextar stared at the approaching human ship and, for the first time in his long military career, felt the cold touch of real fear. His entire fleet was the pride of the Krellian military. 3,000 ships carrying 2 million of the galaxy's finest warriors, equipped with weapons that could shatter planets, but something told him it would not be enough. Terror was something new for the Krellian Empire. They had conquered 47 worlds and destroyed countless fleets, but they had never experienced real fear. Not the simple concern of facing a stronger enemy, but the deep primal horror of encountering something that defied everything they thought they knew about warfare and the universe itself. Commander Vextar floated helplessly on his bridge, surrounded by human marines who moved with calm efficiency through the zero-gravity environment. His flagship, the pride of the Krellian military, was now under enemy control. Its systems disabled, its crew scattered, and its weapons offline. The mighty vessel had become nothing more than a floating prison. "How many humans are on your ship?" Vextar asked, his voice cracking with disbelief. He had to know how many enemies had accomplished this impossible victory. Lieutenant Nam. Sora checked her display. 812. She replied matter-of-factly, including support. Staff 800. Vextar could barely comprehend the number. "We have over 2 million warriors in this fleet. 2 million of the galaxy's finest soldiers, equipped with the most advanced weapons our civilization has ever created." Sora nodded politely. "Yes, we noticed. That is why we had to be creative." The simple response hit Vextar like a physical blow. These humans spoke of creative solutions to overwhelming odds, as if it was the most natural thing in the universe. They had faced impossible numbers and responded not with despair, but with innovation. Across the fleet, similar conversations were taking place. Human boarding teams had captured dozens of command vessels, and in each case the result was the same: confused alien commanders trying to understand how their technological and numerical superiority had become meaningless. On the indomitable medical officer, Dr. Yoon Hye-jin continued her analysis of enemy psychology. "Captain," she reported, "their stress indicators are off the charts. We are seeing complete psychological breakdown across multiple ships. Some crews are abandoning their posts. Others are requesting immediate evacuation to their home worlds." This was the human advantage that no other species had ever understood. Humans became stronger under pressure while their enemies became weaker. Every challenge made them more determined, more creative, more dangerous. The greater the odds against them, the more inventive their solutions became. Captain Daiho studied the tactical display, showing the scattered remnants of what had been the most powerful fleet in Krellian history. Individual ships drifted aimlessly through space, their crews paralyzed by shock and confusion. The mighty Armada had become a collection of lost and frightened vessels. Engineering Chief Park Jinwoo called from the engine compartment. "Captain, the programmable matter systems are reporting full success. We have adapted to every weapon type in their arsenal. Our hull can now counter any technology they possess." The Indomitable had become something beyond the aliens' comprehension. During the battle, it had analyzed every enemy weapon system, every defensive measure, every tactical pattern. Now it was essentially immune to everything the Krellians could throw at it. But the technological superiority was only part of the story. The real difference was in the minds of the combatants. Human crews had been selected and trained for exactly this type of scenario. Each person on the ship was an expert in multiple fields, trained and equipped to handle any situation. Communications Officer Han Ji-young monitored the enemy fleet. "Sir," she reported, "we are intercepting communications between their remaining ships. They are debating whether to retreat or continue fighting." Most seem to favor immediate withdrawal. Tactical Officer Yang Taemin pulled up detailed analysis of the alien formation. "Sir, the enemy fleet has lost all coherent structure. Approximately 60% of their vessels are no longer responding to. Command's individual ship commanders are making independent decisions. This fragmentation was exactly what human strategists had predicted. Alien military forces were built around rigid hierarchy and centralized command. When that structure was disrupted, they became unable to function effectively. It was like cutting the head off a snake." Security Chief Kang Minho reported from the boarding operations. "Sir, we have captured 17 enemy command vessels, including their flagship. Our Marines report. Minimal resistance. Enemy crews seem more shocked than hostile." The truth was that the Krellians had never been trained for this type of warfare. Their military doctrine was based on overwhelming firepower and superior numbers. They expected battles to be decided by which side had more ships and bigger guns. The concept of turning an enemy's strength into weakness was completely foreign to them. Lieutenant Sora maintained her position on the enemy flagship, watching as alien officers tried to process what had happened to them. These warriors had spent their entire careers believing they were part of an invincible military machine. Now they discovered that their invincibility was an illusion. "Your empire has made a fundamental error." "Sora," explained to Commander Vextar, "you assumed that because you had conquered other species you understood warfare itself. But you have only fought enemies who thought like you." Did Vextar looked at the human warrior with growing confusion. "What do you mean? You fight for territory, for resources, for dominance," Sora continued. "But humans fight for ideas. We fight for freedom, for justice, for the right to exist without fear. These are concepts that make us more dangerous than any weapon." The alien commander struggled to understand. This was completely outside his experience. His species fought for practical reasons, to expand their empire, to control resources, to establish dominance over other worlds. But these humans spoke of fighting for abstract concepts, as if ideas themselves could be weapons. On the indomitable Captain Deho received reports from across the battlefield. Every human boarding team had achieved their objectives. Every enemy system had been neutralized. Every alien ship was either captured or disabled. The demonstration was nearly complete. Sir called Communications Officer Han Ji-young. "We are receiving a priority transmission from Krellian High Command. They are demanding to speak with whoever is responsible for this attack. Put them through." Deho ordered. "It is time for them to understand what they are dealing with." The main screen activated, showing a group of high-ranking Krellian officials in an ornate chamber. Their expressions ran. What followed wasn't just a battle, it was a demonstration. Captain Deho didn't just defeat the Krellian Armada, he turned it into a message that would spread across the galaxy. The Indomitable didn't destroy every ship, instead, it disabled them, forcing their crews to watch as human technology systematically dismantled everything they thought they knew about warfare. "This is Captain Kim Deho of the United Earthship Indomitable." He broadcast on all frequencies as the last alien. Weapons fell silent. "You came to our world expecting to find weak prey. Instead, you found something else entirely. The surviving aliens would return to their worlds with a new understanding. Humans weren't like other species. They didn't fight for territory or resources. They fought for ideas, freedom, justice, the right to exist without fear. These concepts made them more dangerous than any weapon." Commander Vextar, his flagship crippled and his fleet scattered, managed one final transmission to his home world. "Do not engage the humans. Mark their space as forbidden. They are not like us. They are not like anyone." As the alien survivors limped away from human space, they carried with them stories that would reshape galactic politics. The humans had announced their presence not through diplomacy or trade, but through the universal language that all species understood. Overwhelming, impossible victory against hopeless odds. Captain Deho stood on his bridge, watching the alien ships retreat. His crew had performed flawlessly, but he knew this was just the beginning. Word would spread that Earth was defended not just by technology or numbers, but by something far more dangerous: humans who refused to accept defeat. Set course for home, he ordered, and send a message to command. Tell them the galaxy now knows we're here, and they know we're ready for whatever comes next. The Indomitable turned toward Earth, carrying with it the knowledge that humanity had just changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. One ship, 800 crew members, and the unbreakable human spirit had delivered a message that would echo across 1,000 worlds. Earth would not be conquered. Not today. Not ever